again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to a brand new movie review. This one is coming to you by popular demand. And you know what? With Glass Onion coming out next week, no more perfect time to talk about Rian Johnson's Knives Out. This is a modern whodunit that is not based off of an Agatha Christie novel or a board game. This is a completely original piece coming from a great director like Rian Johnson and a great cinematic mind like Rian Johnson, and it stars a fantastic cast, which is anchored by Chris Evans, Ana de Armas, Jamie Lee Curtis, and of course, Daniel Craig as the infamous Benoit Blanc. So, as would be the case with a whodunit, there is a mysterious death, and the circumstances surrounding the death of crime novelist Harlan Thrombey, played here by Christopher Plummer, are certainly mysterious. But there's one thing that renowned detective Benoit Blanc knows for sure. Everyone in the wildly dysfunctional Thrombey family is a suspect, and now Blanc must sift through a web of lies and red herrings to ultimately uncover the truth. I think it's safe to say in 2019 that Rian Johnson really was not everybody's favorite person in Hollywood, especially after the release of this bad boy in theaters. A lot of people like myself loved it. Honestly, I really respected that Rian Johnson was willing to challenge a lot of the rules of the Star Wars lore. And then there's people who just downright hated The Last Jedi. A lot of people went around saying, oh, it's an insult to our intelligence. Rian Johnson ruining my childhood? What the fuck? That's just what I've been hearing. Some people are just very hard to please. So Knives Out was basically his answer to a very polarizing movie that came out 2 years beforehand. And Knives Out, I can honestly say, is certainly one of the best whodunits that's come out in years, if not ever. Everything about this movie, stylistically speaking, the direction, and especially the writing, everything just feels so sharp. This is a movie that is always keeping you second guessing. You are always on your toes, and you do not know which way this story is going to go. Now yeah, there's certainly things you can predict when you're watching Knives Out, especially for the first time. But when I saw this in theaters a few years ago for the first time, I love saying this, but Knives Out is a movie that continuously surprised me. Now, the one thing I feel like shouldn't surprise anybody about this movie, the caliber of performances in this. Like, talk about getting the best crop of actors for this type of project. Starting with Daniel Craig, who's at the center of this entire mystery. Oh my word, this is just a performance. It feels so tongue-in-cheek a lot of the times when you're watching him. But even though a lot of his aspects of his performance is downright ridiculous, you just can't help but be enamored with this guy. Daniel Craig just looks like he is having the time of his life in Knives Out. And the accent that he picks, I was not expecting that to come out of Daniel Craig. Like, look at this man. This is James Bond. Would you expect a deep southern drawl to come out of James Bond? I wouldn't either. It just feels like this all-star cast, and across the board, not just Daniel Craig, but everybody just feels like they're having such a fun time. And everybody is just cast so spot on. Michael Shannon is hilarious in this movie. Christopher Plummer as the all-knowing patriarch. Jamie Lee Curtis as the eccentric old lady. Toni Collette is in here giving it her all. LaKeith Stanfield is playing this police lieutenant who's also investigating the case. And then he's kind of thrown off by Benoit Blanc's involvement at first, which leads to some great comedy. But at the center of it all is a very game Ana de Armas, who I have loved for a long time. And this project was a big reason as to why. I feel like this is also the big reason as to why she was cast in No Time to Die, the connection to Daniel Craig there. But in a lot of ways, this is her character's story. She is the emotional anchor of Knives Out, and she delivers. I really felt for her in a lot of these scenes, especially when, spoiler alert, she has willed the entire Thrombey estate, even though she's completely out of the loop in the family tree. And then she's suddenly resented for all of that. You really feel very sympathetic for her situation. It's amazing what Rian Johnson was able to do here. I really loved Ana de Armas' performance, and yeah, her track record, especially within the past year with the projects she's been in, hasn't really been the greatest with Blonde and Deep Water, but I still think this is a performer that shows so much promise, and I really can't wait to see what else she does. But man, the show stealer for me was Chris Evans. Chris Evans playing a bastard bag asshole. I mean, that's just so against his type, isn't it? And I'm sure on this set, he had the most difficult task of his entire career. Do a scene where he has to pretend like he hates puppies. I mean, that's a tough task for anybody, but Chris Evans specifically, I'm sure he must have hated that. But my goodness, look at this sweater on him. Look at that eating grin he has. He's just yucking up every frame. Eat And you eat he is just such a joy to watch. So deliciously hateable. He's so easy to hate in this. Certainly a stark contrast from Steve Rogers, that's for sure. This script was also nominated for Best Original Screenplay, and listening to this dialogue, seeing how this mystery unfolds, you can see why. Because perhaps my biggest praise for Knives Out, aside from the production, aside from the great performances across the board, it's probably this. Whodunits, we'd pretty much grown used to the formula by this point. We don't really get the big exposition dump until the very end, when you get this gigantic revelation. And I'm not saying this movie doesn't have a big revelation at the end, because it does. But what Rian Johnson does that I think is so ingenious is like, you know what? I'm going to give you most of the information about this mystery, and then we can kind of see where it goes from here. I don't want to say this is like a pseudo whodunit or anything, because let's face it, it absolutely is 100% a mystery. But once you figure out who's actually behind all this, and the big revelation that comes from within the classic whodunit, it's just masterful. Like, I don't have another word for it, but masterful. Knives Out is just a wonderful cinematic experience, and I cannot wait to see more installments. I can't wait to see Glass Onion next week. I do have one little gripe with this first Knives Out movie, though. I wish the movie were a little bit longer, because some of these characters in the Thrombey household, especially the youngsters like Katherine Langford and Jaeden Martell, they're not given nearly as much development as I would have liked. Yeah, Katherine Langford as Meg comes across as a fake friend, and she gets a lot more development towards the end of the movie. Jaeden Martell's Jacob comes off like the butt of every joke, though, which really sucks, because Jaeden Martell is a good performer, and he's proven that in recent years. I just would have liked to have seen a bit more character from him. Maybe make him an asshole too, like Chris Evans. Not to that extreme, but like at least just a little hint more, because he is dressed up like such the biggest prep boy jerk. But honestly, those are my only little gripes with this movie. I love Knives Out, and if you haven't seen this movie by this point, you absolutely should. Rian Johnson may have provided his best movie ever, and he's made a few good ones like Brick and Looper and The Last Jedi. I will take that to my grave. The Last Jedi is a good movie, but Knives Out just may be this man's best, and I can't wait to see what else he does. I'm gonna give Knives Out an A. Rian Johnson, you freaking genius. Give me more with Glass Onion. It looks like a really, really great cast. Almost on par with this one. But let me know what you thought of Knives Out down in the comments section below. Is this your favorite whodunit of all time? Because honestly, just may be mine. Feel free to sound off as much as you like down there in the nifty comments. I love what I do here. I love starting the discussion, but getting to interact with you guys makes things all the more fun for me. And if you're a first-time visitor, you're all invited to the party over here. We're talking all things movies and TV on a regular basis, so do consider smashing that subscribe button. It's completely free. Also, click on that notification bell so you always stay in the know over here. And do me a favor and smash the like button as well. Likes really, really help the channel. Really helps us to continue to grow this community. Stay tuned for more exciting content hitting my channel very, very soon, including my thoughts on the aforementioned Glass Onion. We'll also be looking at Disney's Strange World once that comes out next week. And a big weekend at the movie theaters with The Menu, She Said. You also have Slumberland hitting Netflix. And of course, A Christmas Story Christmas. You know I gotta talk about that one. But certainly a lot to look forward to, my friends. Y'all are the best. Thank you all so very much again for your support. And with all that being said, back talk commence!